Welcome back, YouTube pipe smokers. Mutton Chop Piper here. Today's video is entitled, "What do you mean when you say this blend is smooth or velvety or creamy?" Now, this video is primarily for potential pipe smokers, new pipe smokers, and intermediate pipe smokers. So what does that mean? What do I mean when I say this blend is creamy or it's velvety? Well, I'm not talking about the taste of the tobacco. I'm talking about the texture of the smoke. So to understand that, we're going to have to look at how different types of tobacco burn. So let's start out with Virginias. Let's start out with yellow and red Virginias. Now, Virginias are high in sugar. And because of that, they burn hotter and quicker. So if you smoke a straight yellow or red Virginia, it is going to give the texture of the smoke is going to be more. It's going to be hot, and it's going to mask itself as tongue bite. With these types of Virginias, you have to slow your rhythm, even when you're using the breath method. Using the breath method, I'll breathe in and out through my nose at a normal pace. But with red and yellow Virginias, I've got to slow that rhythm down. I've got to slow that pace down so that I don't overheat or cause the tobacco to burn hotter. And like I said, when you smoke this, it does. It feels like you're getting tongue bite, but you are actually not. You are just, the heat is so intense in your mouth that it feels like you're getting tongue bite. Now there is another type of Virginia, a stoved Virginia, which has been cooked and pressed. Now I like these types of Virginias better because they don't burn quite as hot. Now they still have sugar in them, but they don't burn quite as hot. So I can keep breathing at a regular rate, keep my rhythm the same, and I don't quite, that texture of that smoke is not quite as sharp or burning as a yellow and red Virginia is. Now, there's other types of tobacco that we need to speak about. Let's talk about Orientals, Latakias, and Periques. Now, these three tobaccos are infused with oils. They're oil-based and have just a little bit of sugar. So, because of that, these types of tobacco burn cooler. But there's a caveat. They also burn slower. So you find yourself lighting those types of tobaccos more often than you do a Virginia. And because they're oil-based, they burn a lot cooler. So you get a lot of the flavor of Oriental or a lot of flavor of the Latakia, but it's not all that sweet. Now another blend type that we need to talk about that you have to be very careful with is what we call a vapor. It's Virginia and Perique combined. Now, depending on the split, if you have more Virginia than you do Perique, then it may burn hotter because of all the sugar. If you have more Perique and less Virginia, then it may burn a little bit cooler. But Perique is a spicy type of tobacco, so the heat you're going to get, or the texture of the smoke you're going to get, is more like a spicy hot. It's like you've eaten something spicy, Mexican food or a spicy Italian food. So for me at least, with a vapor, I have to treat it kind of like I do with a yellow and red Virginia. I have to smoke it a little bit slower. Slow my cadence down, slow my rhythm down. Now, So now we know how each of them burn and what type of texture of smoke they produce. So how do we get that perfect, creamy, and velvety texture of smoke? Well, the first thing we do is we combine an oil-based tobacco with a sugar-based tobacco. So my favorite combination is Orientals and Virginia. About a 70-30 split. 70% Oriental and 30% Virginia. That gives the oil-based Oriental. When you mix those two together, because the Virginia burns quicker, it helps the Orientals burn at a consistent rate. And where the Virginias burn hot, the Orientals with its oils tone down that hot burning Virginia to where you sort of have a happy medium there. Now, the smoke, the texture of the smoke you get is just a normal texture. It's not anything fantastic. You get the flavor of the Oriental or the flavor of the Latakia plus the sweetness. So, what is the ultimate? What's the ultimate blend combination to where you can get that creamy, velvety smoke? That would be either a Latakia and Virginia blend, or an Oriental, Latakia, Virginia blend, or an Oriental and Virginia blend that has been aged at least 5 to 7 years. So when you throw two types of tobaccos, especially one that is oil-based and one that is sugar-based, the longer they stay together, the more likely that they will infuse each leaf with its basic oils or sugar. So let's take Oriental and Virginia. You throw them together. The oils in the Oriental will infuse that oil into the Virginia. And the Virginia will infuse the sugar into the Oriental. And what that does is it mellows the blend. It smooths out the blend. And when you start to smoke it, that will reflect in the texture of the smoke. So, a blend of Oriental and Virginias that has been aged for 5 to 7 years, you put it in your pipe, start to smoke it. You'll notice it'll be smooth, and it'll be creamy, and it will be velvety. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, have you ever had, there's a candy out there called Werther's Originals. If you've had that kind of candy, or let's say that if you've had like a orange cream hard candy, or strawberry or raspberry cream, if you haven't, go out and try one of those. And that's the kind of creaminess that I'm talking about, the kind of velvetiness. When the smoke comes into your mouth, it feels like you just drank maybe some cream or some milk. It's got that creamy texture to it. And once you get there, that's when you have the potential of having what's called a Nirvana smoke. A Nirvana smoke is a smoke that let's just say that we do the Oriental and Virginia blend. You pack your pipe. Well, you've packed it perfect. You light it once, and you never have to light it again, the whole smoke. With the smoke, it's got that creamy, velvety texture. It is flavorful. The Oriental is bursting with flavor. It's sweet. And by the end of the bowl, you're like, man, that was unbelievable. I wish I'd had that kind of smoke all the time. You've just had a Nirvana smoke. Now, you may have had one already, or you may have one yet to come. But when you have one, you'll know it. Now, let's take a look a little bit at some of the aromatic blends. Aromatic blends, they're usually heavily cased, and it depends on the casing. If you have food grade, let's say food grade caramel or vanilla or cocoa, that will give you a more smoother smoke than an aromatic that has been cased with liqueur or bourbon or whiskey. The bourbon and whiskey are, they burn quickly, or they burn hot, to where the food grade vanilla and caramel burn a lot slower. So now, a lot of people say that you shouldn't, that there's no reason to cellar aromatics. I kind of find that if I cellar an aromatic for 5 years or so, it tends, those toppings tend to infuse themselves into the leaf of the tobacco, and again, it sort of tames the blend a little bit. The liqueur, especially, you don't get as hot a smoke because a lot of the alcohol has burned off, or has not burned off, but it's sort of gone away and left just the taste of the liquor. But there you go. We're always chasing that Nirvana smoke, whether you smoke aromatics or you smoke non-aromatics. That's what our goal is, to have that Nirvana smoke every time we smoke a pipe. All right, well, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until my next video, I want to wish you and your family happy piping.